Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I'm so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body love. This is one of my absolute favorite things to talk about because, ladies, we can't even catch a break during COVID. The body shaming, the body bashing, the body comparison is still at an all-time high. But I want to help you find a little extra love for your body this month that leaves you feeling pretty freaking great about yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everybody, it is Mary, and welcome to the third episode in this month's topic, which is all about body love. Man, we've had some great episodes, haven't we? Last week, I talked with my friend Lindsley. We got into COVID weight gain and just weight gain in general and how to cultivate a relationship with your body and what that actually looks like, how it ties to emotional eating. And we got just fantastic feedback from you guys on that episode. And then the first episode, we got into the concept of your body bully. And man, did that episode blow up. I know that was a new concept to a lot of you, and I'm so glad that that resonated and you were able to get some deep insight on how to shift your internal dialogue and how you speak to yourself about your body. And today's episode is going to go one step even deeper into this journey of body love. And y'all, man, today I had a Q&A with the ladies inside of my Fully Alive Circle membership. And the questions had to do with this month's topic. And y'all, it was just amazing to see everybody's body hatred journey. You know, it's kind of like you could plot on a map and see when it started and how much more warped and intense that it has become since then. And to be honest, I get emails all the time of women sharing their journey with me about their body hatred journey to the point where, you know, people can't look at themselves in the mirror without having utter disgust, or they just want to start crying, not owning full-length mirrors, not wanting to look their bodies in the mirror, and just kind of that mental shutdown as it relates to their bodies. And I'm just curious from you guys, if you relate to any of my circle members, if you have had your own body hatred journey. And obviously that is varying degrees for all of us. Some of us, we have that really strong in our journey. Some of us, maybe not so much, but my guess is if you're a woman, you're going to have some version of this at some point in your life. And, you know, as I've gone through my own journey of this, and oh my God, like there was so much of a part of the work that I do that is about my journey from body hatred to body acceptance and love. And as I've gone through my own work with this, you know, one of the things that I always come back to is like, hang on, like, wait a minute. You know, we didn't just wake up at 30 or 40 or 50, or 60 years old and just decide to hate our bodies. Like it's not a new concept to us. This is old. I mean, some of us could probably argue that it's ancient, maybe passed down from generation to generation. But here's something that I know to be true for all of us. Each one of us has what I call a originating body shaming moment. A moment when, if you think about like before, or as a little girl or, you know, a little boy, like as a child, you aren't even really aware that you have a body. You know, there's no idea that your body is good or bad. You don't even really think about your body. You just move. They're just a part of you. And I love this. Like there's this kind of fascination with who we are. You know, you think about a little kid who sees themselves and is finally able to recognize themselves in the mirror for the first time. They're fascinating with themselves. They delight in themselves. They dance. There's a lot of freedom. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of play when it comes to the body. Even just if you think about the sexual part of a child and the curiosity of that, there's curiosity, there's playfulness, there's no awareness that their body could be good or bad, or that there's something wrong with their body. I mean, even children you see that have some kind of illness or some kind of like maybe they grew up and they are not able to walk properly and they are in a wheelchair or whatever. There's not the shame that goes along with that. There's this really beautiful acceptance of the body and sort of lack of awareness of the body, of it just being totally neutral. And to, kind of move from that to a place where, and again, this is kind of where I call it the originating body shaming moment, where something happens that creates an immediate new awareness that our bodies are flawed and broken. A moment that sort of gets translated into, something is wrong with my body. And sadly, it's a moment where our innocence is taken away from us as little girls. I mean, it could be as simple as a comment, a judgment from a mother or a father, a family member, somebody that is important. This could be something that happens inside of our peer group. Maybe one of our friends calls out something and makes fun of something about our body. This could be sexual abuse. This could be a blanket statement from a TV show. It could be maybe a moment where we see something like a side-by-side before and after photo in a magazine. But we all have this one moment where we start to believe that our bodies have turned against us. That all of a sudden we are keenly aware that our bodies are not our friends after all, but they're our enemy. Something to be controlled, punished, or reined in. Something that needs to be smaller, or maybe even something that needs to be bigger. I have had plenty of people say that their originating body shaming moment had to deal with the fact that they were too thin. My little sister is a great example of this. She was really, really thin growing up, and we would tease her about having bird legs, or I know other people who would say, oh, you need to eat a sandwich, talking about how scrawny that she was. And it could be a parent who was overly concerned with getting you enough food or helping you put on weight. And I've had just countless people in my Babe Redefined course that recount that first time where they felt fat. Their dad mentioning this or that about their bodies, an older sibling telling them to watch what they eat, watching beauty pageants. I don't know. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. I mean, I think there's beauty pageants that happen now, but me growing up, God, I can remember that was like a thing. Like we literally sat down as a family and would watch these beauty pageants. And I mean, if you think about the whole concept of that, what's everybody commenting on? Who's the prettiest? Who's the most beautiful? Who has the best body? Something else that may have occurred is seeing your mother maybe as beautiful, only to see her look in the mirror with disgust at her appearance, or being able to witness sort of the way that your mom had her own body bully and spoke that out loud to herself and degraded herself or diminished herself or berated herself out loud, and possibly you as well. And so we all have these messages that pop up somewhere along our journey. And I know that for me, my story kind of starts with this fat phobia. That my originating body shaming moment was when I was in 5th grade, Scales Elementary in Brentwood, Tennessee. Y'all, I almost just about sang you the the little song, but I will spare you. But it was pretty great. And growing up, I was like, I had a a body that I was, always played. I was outside, I was running. It was sort of an average sized body, not super thin, not super, super big. And I didn't really have any, consciousness of my body before that moment. And for whatever reason, 5th grade was like a defining year for me for body shaming. And a couple things happened, but one was when I was in the cafeteria at Scales Elementary, and my friend Jenny Beth Snyder. Jenny Beth, if you are around, if you're listening to this, what up, girl? And she had an older sister, and I think this is where a lot of this was passed down, through an older sibling. But we went around the tables, all girls, and we went around, and she had everybody, at least this is how I remember it, have everybody say their weight. And I remember it got to me, and I wasn't even aware of what anybody else's weight was, right? It was just kind of like, oh, we're just sharing like how tall we are or something. And I said how much I weighed, and at the moment, I was 100 pounds. And y'all, it was like you could hear a pin drop when I said that. And what I realized, and this was sort of that originating body shaming moment, was, oh, I should be embarrassed. Oh, something is wrong with my body. Something's not good here. And what I later realized is I was the only one, even though, again, I was not like a kid that carried on a lot of extra weight. For whatever reason, I was the heaviest at that table. I had gone beyond the 90s and I had hit that 100. And oh my God, it was a defining moment. I don't know if you've ever been through those moments where you can palpably feel the energy. You can feel the shame. You can feel that people are looking at you with judgment. And they were. And for me, it was like, oh my God, oh, this body isn't good enough. Oh, this isn't great. And all I knew was that my body had turned against me. All I knew was that I was flawed. All I knew in that moment that I must be broken. Like I was different, and I'd better hurry up and get back to being just like everybody else. And I was responsible for fixing it if I ever wanted to be accepted again, to be like in the cool group, in the cool girls group. And so Jenny Beth and I ended up going on a series of different diets that were totally ridiculous. And, in hindsight, looking back, I mean, as a 5th grader, it's like, just the attempt was just so extreme and so short-lived, and just, all the kinds of dysfunctional, disordered eating. And whatever was in fat, in the fad diet at the time, I think it was like cabbage soup diet. And then there was like a peanut butter and pickle juice. It was just y'all gross, just horrible, but again, it was like, we gotta fix this. We gotta make sure that I don't, stay in this place with my body. Hey y'all, it's Mary, and I want to interrupt this episode real quick. What if you could love this body? Yeah, the one that you live in right now. And I know it sounds crazy. I know you're probably thinking of all the million reasons why you need to change first before you can love yourself. But what if you can look in the mirror and say, I love you, and smile, like right now? What if you could embrace the skin that you're in? What if you could show up exactly as you are and truly live your life? Just imagine a world where you weren't obsessed with your body. A world where you didn't cry getting ready or panic when you got invited to the beach. What if this was the year that you decided to accept yourself? I would love to teach you how to do that, because I am on a mission to set women like you free from dieting and hating their bodies. I am on a mission to help you heal from feeling like you are anything less than beautiful in the body that you have right now. I am on a mission to redefine the word babe to include all bodies, all shapes, all sizes. I am on a mission of love, a different way of existing in this world as a woman. And I want to walk hand in hand with you to redefine beauty, to redefine what it means to be a woman, to become a babe redefined. This is the year to make peace with the mirror, quiet your inner bully, and love your body. If you're interested in diving deeper into this content, I want you to check out my 6-week online course called Babe Redefined, where you'll be able to do this in such a powerful way. Just go to maryhyatt.com/babe-redefined. maryhyatt.com/babe-redefined. All right, now back to this week's episode. I can remember that year as well, my dad mentioning something about how I needed to shave my legs. Remember like that moment when you're a little girl and all of a sudden you realize that you have hair on your legs and somehow that's not socially acceptable? It's like, what little kid actually even like thinks about it or cares about the hair on their legs? And then somebody calls it out. Somebody makes a point about it. And again, I can remember I was going to church and with my dad, and I don't even think he was probably being mean about it. I mean, my dad is a very kind, loving person. So I'm sure it was like an observation, like, oh, you got hair on your legs. But something about the way that he said it, it was internalized as shameful. And there were just moments like that, those couple years, those formative years, where you're sort of awkward, you got the little buds as boobs and, all those moments you get your period. And just all these moments where, women tell you your body's not good. Your body's against you, the evil period, evil PMS, all those kinds of things. Not to mention you probably had some sort of sexual shaming in there as well. If you grew up in a church or if you grew up in a religious home, there was probably some sort of sexual shame, at a time when your body is developing sexually and there are really appropriate kind of urges that happen as your hormones are developing, the shame that goes along with that. That your body is doing something that isn't okay. Your body is feeling something that isn't safe. Your body is experiencing something that is sinful. And so if you think about that for a moment and in your own journey with your body, what is your originating body shaming story? What is your originating body shaming story? And it could have to do with weight. It could have to do with size, breast size, hip size. I know a lot of people when they were growing up measured themselves, with a tape measure or like a, whatever, not a tape measure, but y'all know the one that you make clothes with. What the heck is that even called? Is it called a tape measure? God, I don't know, but y'all get what I'm saying. There's like this moment where all of a sudden we got to get on top of this. We got to make sure that our bodies stay in check, stay in line, because again, they're against us. They're broken. They're flawed. And to be honest, we probably have like a few of these. I know that I have several of my moments that stemmed into my teenage years where I know that I began to question my attractiveness, my sexiness, really for the first time realizing that what I looked like would have an effect on boys, on men, and how so much of my lovability as a teenager and a young adult depended on the size of my body, the shape of my body. And that's really when I started dieting. I started starving myself. In high school, I was drinking only shakes instead of actual meals. I was taking that horrible pill, Hydroxycut, that diet pill that made me like crazy. I can remember getting it from the store. And I think at this point I was driving age. I was probably 16, 17 years old. And it's like cracked out of your mind. I tried anything and everything. I was getting up at 4 a.m. I was working out and I was obsessed with fixing what was broken. I was obsessed with making sure that this body was pleasing to men, making sure that this body was acceptable to my friends. And it's vital that we understand our body image history so that we can kind of begin to unravel this web of body shaming lies that control so much of our lives. And so that we can begin to see that we actually aren't broken after all, and that our bodies aren't our enemies after all. That at some moment in time, we were handed this lie, this pressure, this expectation, this demand that in our naivety, in our just sort of lack of being able to filter anything in our sweet little young brains, we gobbled that up as truth without ever giving ourselves the opportunity to question it, to decide if we agreed or disagreed with it or wanted to take that on as our identity. And it was like we unknowingly were ingesting poison and we didn't know. And I don't know if that sounds dramatic. I don't know though. Something about the word poison feels kind of like dramatic. And yet, isn't that what it is? Like psychological poison? Like to believe that this thing that God created, this unbelievably intricate, unbelievably intelligent thing that we call our body, that is so fascinating. The more I learn about the body, and the more that I learn about the brain, the more I learn about our emotional connection to it, this mind-body connection, my mind is just blown. It's like, whoa, we are in service of the body, not the other way around. And yet we were believing that this thing was anything but magnificent, that this thing that we call our body was literally our enemy, and that we needed to beat it into submission. And so what we don't realize is that when we don't understand our own history, we have no power to update our story or decide if we want to believe those lies that we were taught when we were little. We never get the opportunity to challenge them. We just stay sort of in this reactive state of trying to fix ourselves, and in a small mind, in a little person's mind. And so we keep dieting. We keep hating ourselves. We keep believing that we are broken. We keep chasing our lovability. We keep playing the game. But when we can realize that, outside also of this originating body shaming moment, there was a body culture that we grew up in, where we were indoctrinated with these body beliefs, viewing how our mother thought about her body, and on and on and on. When we have that new awareness, when we can cultivate some almost like truth serum into our history, into our memory, that gives us power. And that's like where it gets exciting. And this is what I love to talk about, because I hope that through this conversation, you kind of have some light bulb moments like, oh my God, that's when I adopted that. Oh my God, that was, my sister's belief, my mom's belief, my grandma's belief, society's belief. Whoa. And every family has a body culture formed from largely, honestly, religious beliefs that defines the roles of a woman. And it also, this body culture, feeds off of the cultural stereotype of the decades that we grew up in. If you kind of like rewind and you think about going back whenever you were born. So if you're born in the 70s or 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, there was an ideal beauty for each of those decades. Whether it was something that had to do with thin eyebrows, a tiny athletic body with no curves, kind of that anorexic chic sort of look, all the way fast forward to now where it's like big butts, really curvy, big lips. There's sort of like a morphing ideal body for a woman that we're supposed to fit into. And our body culture in our family kind of correlates to whatever decade that we were born in. And it greatly shapes how we think about ourselves and our bodies. And so I say that to help you recognize that this shit is old. Like, it is learned. We have been practicing this body culture from an early age. We were saturated with it. We witnessed it. And we've been living it ever since. Like, if you have never thought about this, if you've never questioned this, if you've been in this cycle still, then it's like, this is old. This has been like going on for decades. And so this is sort of that moment to say, whoa, let's see and connect the dots and follow this back to its source. Follow it back to where this came from in the first place. So I want you to grab a pencil and a pen, or you can do this on your phone if you've got your phone. But I think this is going to be helpful. I'm going to offer you some questions that you can begin to ask yourself so that you can help get more clear on this for yourself, that you can kind of help identify like, ooh, That's it for me. And my encouragement is to set aside a few minutes to journal through this. And this is something that, inside of the Fully Live Circle membership, we're doing. We've got this beautiful workbook where we are like actually going through some of these questions. We are doing the work, and that's where the shift and the change happens. And side note, if you're curious about the Fully Live Circle membership, we're on a wait list right now. So the cart is closed. But if you're curious about the online membership, definitely get on the wait list for the next time that I open it, because it is such a beautiful community of women like doing this work, taking these episodes and diving deep into this content to create the actual shifts. And you can go to maryhyatt.com/circle, maryhyatt.com/circle for that. But these questions are going to help you sort of pinpoint, oh yeah, this is what I want to get into question. This is where I adopted something that I want to challenge and I want to release, and I don't want to operate from a place of believing this. Because if I see that if I believe this, it only brings me back around to that self-hatred, back around to feeding that body bully. So I've got 6 questions for you. These are so awesome. So first one is, and of course these will be in the show notes as well. Okay. So if you don't have a way to write anything down, no worries. You can visit the website and grab these later. But first question is, when was the first time that you remember being aware that your body wasn't good enough? When was the first time that you can remember where that you were aware that your body wasn't good enough? Again, sort of that originating body shaming moment. What happened? Who was there? What subconscious messages did you come away with? What was your reaction to the judgment that you received? Almost like, what did you do to try to fix it? Did you go on a diet? Did you stop eating? Did you obsess about your body? Did you seek out advice from somebody else? Did you join a program? That's a really key. So that question is really cool. So that's question number 5. What was the reaction to the judgment that you received? Because that will show you kind of where you internalized what somebody was giving you, saying to you, shaming you in, where you internalize that and your way of dealing with it. Because my guess is that's probably still a pattern for you. If you get triggered, if you feel some kind of body shame, I'm not enough, if you see images on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, chances are there's a version of this reaction that you're probably still in. And sorry, that is not question number 5. That's all under number 1. Sorry. That is a sub question to number 1. So again, when was the first time that you remember that you were aware that your body wasn't good enough? And then you're going to really flesh that out. Like tell the story of that moment. So that's the first question. The second question is, what were the messages that you received about beauty and about being a woman and about your body from your mom or your grandmother or whoever was the predominant female influence in your life? And this is really interesting. This is really interesting because what we learn first, we learn by kind of osmosis, that body culture, right? So like seeing our mom, seeing the woman in our life or the women in our life. This could be an older sister. This could be a female teacher or a youth pastor or, anybody that was sort of a predominant female figure in your life. Although I think that if you had a mother who was present in your life, definitely look at her first. What was her relationship to her body like? Did she get ready in the morning and put on makeup? Did she fix her hair? Was she all natural? Was she concerned about her beauty? Concerned about her appearance? Did she diet? Did she work out? Did she move her body? Did she do anything that maybe we might look at as like a cleanse now, or kind of like short durations of extreme stuff? Did she comment about her body? How was she when the time to be in summer and put on a bathing suit? How was she with her bathing suit? How was she with exposing her body? Did she wear a one piece with a skirt? Was modesty a piece of this? Was there a freedom in that, and that she wore a two-piece? Did she wear a bathing suit? Did y'all go and expose your bodies? Were there any rules about what you could wear, with a bathing suit or not? And then also kind of think about her sexuality, which is kind of weird to think about when we think about our mom. Like, but just kind of notice, like, was she in touch with any of that? Did she have from your memory any kind of sense of pleasure? Or was there a energy of that being concealed? Was she affectionate to your or her partner, husband, boyfriend, or partners, if she was with other people or single during the time that you were younger? What was that like? What were the messages that you received about beauty? Like, I know for me, one of them was, and I'm from the South, y'all, so, debutante land. One of those was, you don't leave the house without lipstick and earrings. Thank you, Mom. You do not leave the house without lipstick and earrings. That was a big thing that we got, Modesty was really drilled into us, that whole idea of like, you can cause a boy to stumble, cover your shoulders, cross your legs, those kinds of things. A lot of shame around the bathing suit, around the body. So just kind of thinking about that. What were those messages? So the third question is, what was the body culture like in your family? So we're going to kind of like broaden this out a little bit more from just your mom, but like the family. Did you talk about other people? So what was the body culture like in your family? And actually the fourth question here is, did your family talk about bodies? Did your family talk about bodies? So did your family comment on other people's bodies? Oh, though she's overweight, she's fat. Oh, so-and-so really let herself go. So-and-so looks great. If you remember and go back, was there commentary on other people's bodies in your family? Fifth, honestly, not even just like strangers, but even the bodies of the people inside of your family, like praise for losing weight, for example, or concern if somebody gained weight. Was there talk about bodies? Like, I know in my family, huge talk about bodies. My parents always were dieting growing up. And in my high school, and this is the diet that I ended up doing, was like a Body for Life diet. And me and my parents, we would go to the gym at 4 a.m. and we would be there, and we would, all this talk around bodies, and, bodies that were more fit were better. And being able to keep up cardio wise. We had a treadmill in the house, from early on. So then the fifth question is, did your family talk about food? Did your family talk about food? So in your body image history, inside of this culture of your family, did y'all talk about food? Any kinds of foods that were good foods, bad foods, any kinds of foods that felt like you needed to hide, that were quote unquote like cheating? Any words that were used like, oh, I'm being bad, or oh, I've been good? Any talk around processed food, more natural food, any kind of opinion about food itself? Really getting into, okay, what were the opinions of my family around food and how y'all ate? Did you eat as a family? Did you eat food alone? Did you microwave it? Was it home cooked? Did you go out? What were some of those thoughts and feelings and values around food? And then the last and the sixth question is, how about diets? Did your family talk about diets? Was that part of your family culture, that you did diets together, that you were always chasing the next diet? Were diets seen as good? Were people who did diets in good behavior and were to be praised? Again, like, what did your family think about diets? So these are those 6 questions to help you sort of dive into this history for yourself. And taking a look at that body image history helps you realize that you are not the one with the problem. This is not your fault. The way that you see it, the way that you think about food, about your body, about diets, your shape, your size, your weight is learned. And when we're able to see that this is not something that we have chosen, but rather that we've been taught, we can offer ourselves radical compassion. And we can really begin to shift towards a more loving approach. Like, y'all, this is not your fault. It's not anything that you've done wrong, or like, oh my God, to add shame to the mix that you even have a body bully. To not add shame to the mix that you negatively think about your body, or you've been in diet cycles, or you're constantly obsessing about the shape and size and weight of your body. No. This is like learned behavior. And I want to say something that I'm not going to say lightly, because I think this is really important. Looking at this means we are breaking generational cycles. I'm going to say that again. Looking at this means we are breaking generational cycles. It really is that big. Because these cycles, if you think about it, it's like we're breaking these chains, are bondage. These expectations of how our body's supposed to look as a woman, even as a man, men have their own version of this, maybe not quite as intensely, but there's no freedom in that. If you think about a life that is obsessed with how we look, and obsessed about our weight, and obsessed about beauty in a way that is disordered, believe me, there's a way that this can be healthy, of course. Wanting our bodies to thrive, wanting them to feel vibrant, embracing our beauty, our feminine beauty, embracing our femininity. Yes. But what I'm talking about are these chains. This fear, this shame around our bodies, this wanting to fix it, this believing it's not enough, that it's broken. We're rewriting the story right now. We are changing the future for ourselves, perhaps for your children, and for all the little girls who are coming up on their originating body shaming moment. I mean, imagine if your daughter, if you have daughters, were to come to you and say, Mom, this happened, so-and-so said I was fat, that you could meet that with so much tenderness and love because you've done your own work, or later, even in their life, if you've kind of like missed that moment, that you can help them rewrite this story for themselves. And so by dealing with our past and challenging these lies that we've accepted as truth, we are creating change. We are shifting the story. And it invites us to come to a place of acceptance and love. It's like we're getting to rewrite the rules here. We're getting to come back to that moment before, when as children we believed that our sweet bodies were just awesome, like just for play and for pleasure and for fun and for movement. And we moved freely, we danced, we jiggled, we laughed, without ever having to mean something about our character, about our worthiness, about our value. Where we could look in the mirror and smile and delight in ourselves. And I know this is not something that after this podcast is going to happen overnight. I hope that there are some aha moments here for sure. But y'all, this is obviously a journey. I mean, we're rewriting these patterns. And we're beginning to invite ourselves to speak to ourselves in a way that creates space for this kind of new allowing and acceptance. I mean, just imagine how your life would be if you stopped trying to fix yourself. What could you believe? Or what if you believe that your body didn't need to be fixed? What if you really, from a deep place of like resolution, didn't need to start in the next diet or reset or cleanse or restart or whatever you want to call it, but that you began to build a relationship with your body where you could be in tune with her, kind of like what we talked about in the last episode, that relationship with the body. And oh gosh, is there anything like more healing than this? Like if you think about the time and energy that women spend hyper focusing on their body and their weight, to have freedom from that, woo, huge, huge, huge. And like I said, it's not overnight, but this is the beginning, understanding our history. And I hope this is encouraging and kind of lets you off the hook and adds some grace to the mix. Nothing's wrong with you. Like literally nothing is wrong with you. You are so awesome, so beautiful, perfect in every way, perfect in all your imperfections. And I know that, we're obviously shifting into a new topic for the next month on the podcast. But if you want to dive deeper into this is like what I talk about. I mean, obviously check out the wait list for the Fully Alive Circle membership, because all the content that we talked about from this month will be in the vault, so you can access it later and go into that. And then if you really want to go for it, do the Babe Redefined course that I talk about in our little show commercial. That's a great place to start. But I'm just sending you all so much love on this body journey, this body acceptance, this body love. And man, we are in this together, y'all. We are changing the tide and changing how we're thinking about it. And next month, we're going to be talking all about relationships. So get ready for that. Super excited to be talking about relationships. So tune in next week for the beginning of that. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.